Camilla had survived years of whispers by remaining calm, private, and almost impossible to confront. Yet in that room, none of those protections mattered. The Queen was not asking for an explanation. She was demanding submission, and Camilla understood that one refusal could cost her Charles forever. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, because this story is only beginning. And what happened inside that room would change the balance of power between Diana, Camilla, Charles, and the crown. There was no shouting. That was what made the meeting so frightening. The Queen spoke in a measured voice, each sentence calm and final. Camilla quickly understood that she had not been invited to defend herself. The decision had already been made before she entered. A letter would be written. Diana would receive it, and Camilla would follow the Queen's instructions. At first, Camilla believed Charles would appear and protect her. She had built much of her courage around the idea that he would stand beside her when the pressure became too great. But he was not allowed into the room. Worse, Camilla began to suspect that he did not even know the full details of what the Queen was demanding. The Queen then explained the danger facing the monarchy. Diana's popularity was rising. More people were beginning to see her pain, and every cold response from the palace made the royal family look cruel and dishonest. The issue was no longer private. It had become a threat to the crown. Camilla tried to speak of her own suffering, but the Queen stopped her. She allegedly warned Camilla not to present herself as another victim. Whatever history existed between Camilla and Charles, Diana had entered the marriage expecting loyalty. Instead, she had faced doubt, loneliness, and public humiliation while the entire world watched. Then the paper was placed before Camilla. Every word carried risk. If she admitted too much, the letter could destroy her reputation. If she said too little, Diana might see it as another insult. The Queen demanded one clear phrase. Diana had been placed in an impossible position, and her pain should never have been dismissed as oversensitivity. Camilla resisted inside. Charles had made his own choices, yet she was being forced to carry the shame alone. Still, blaming him would mean betraying the man around whom she had built her future. When the letter was finished, the Queen read it carefully. One defensive sentence was removed. Another passage was rewritten because it sounded more like an excuse than remorse. Only then was the letter approved. But before the envelope was sealed, Camilla added one final line in her own hand. It was not ordered by the Queen. It was a quiet plea asking Diana to keep the letter private and spare everyone from further destruction. The apology had been written, inspected, and sealed, but the most dangerous question remained unanswered. What would Diana do when the words of the woman she blamed were finally placed in her hands? Diana had spent years being told that she imagined the coldness surrounding her. Then a sealed envelope arrived carrying proof that the palace finally recognized her pain. But as she read Camilla's apology, relief did not come. Instead, one carefully avoided truth made Diana's anger even sharper. The letter did not come from Camilla directly. It arrived through a quiet palace channel, passed carefully from one trusted hand to another. That detail told Diana almost everything before she even opened it. This was not a private act of regret. It had been arranged, checked, and delivered as part of a larger effort to control the damage. She read the first line slowly. Then she returned to it. The words were polite, measured, and almost too careful. They carried none of the confusion, jealousy, or pain that had shaped the real conflict. The letter sounded controlled because it was controlled. Diana could feel the palace behind every sentence, pressing the truth into softer language. For one brief moment, she felt vindicated. Someone had finally admitted that her suffering was real. The palace could no longer pretend she had imagined everything. But that feeling quickly turned into grief. Why had it taken years of loneliness and public shame for anyone to acknowledge what had happened? Then, Diana noticed what the apology avoided. Camilla wrote of pain, regret, and unfortunate circumstances, but she never clearly named the relationship at the center of it all. She did not speak openly about the closeness between herself and Charles. She did not mention the repeated doubts, hidden conversations, or the way Diana had been made to question her own instincts. Camilla accepted responsibility without saying exactly what she was responsible for. The letter sounded serious, but it remained strangely empty where the truth mattered most. And then Diana reached the final handwritten line. Camilla asked her to keep the letter private. To Diana, that was the most honest sentence on the page. It revealed that Camilla's deepest fear was not the pain Diana had suffered. It was what Diana might do with the proof now resting in her hands. A trusted confidante urged her not to reply at once. Silence would make Camilla wait. An angry response could be shown to others and used to paint Diana as unstable, bitter, or cruel. The palace had done that before, and Diana knew it could happen again. She placed the letter aside, but she could not escape its meaning. For the first time, she held something that connected Camilla, the Queen, and the hidden system protecting Charles. The apology was more than a personal message. It was evidence that the palace understood far more than it had ever admitted. Diana decided she would answer. But there would be no emotional explosion. Her reply would be calm, clear, and impossible to twist. Diana did not tear the apology apart, leak it, or return it unanswered. Instead, she chose a weapon the palace understood, perfectly carefully written words that could not be dismissed once they had been read. Camilla expected anger, accusation, perhaps even a threat. What arrived was worse. Diana's reply was controlled, almost graceful, and written without a single reckless sentence. Yet beneath its politeness was a message so precise that Camilla allegedly stopped reading halfway through and began again with trembling hands. Diana had chosen every word with care. She knew that one emotional phrase could be used against her. The Queen might read the reply. Charles might study it. Palace advisors might search for any sign of jealousy or rage. So Diana gave them nothing they could easily twist. Her language was calm enough to survive every private meeting, every whispered judgment, and even the eyes of history. She began by confirming that she had received the apology. But she did not accept it. That small distance mattered. Camilla had written hoping for relief, perhaps even forgiveness. Diana refused to give her either so quickly. Then she drew a sharp line between regret and responsibility. Regret, she suggested, was sadness about the damage after it had happened. Responsibility was something harder. It meant naming the choices that caused the damage in the first place. Diana made her central point clear. She did not need Camilla to apologize for loving Charles. Love, however painful, was not the whole crime. What mattered was the role Camilla had played while Diana was expected to protect the image of a happy marriage. Diana had been told to smile, remain loyal, and defend the crown, while others quietly understood the truth. That was the deepest wound. It was not simply losing a husband's love. It was the humiliation of realizing that people around her knew more than they admitted. She had been encouraged to doubt her own feelings, while the palace protected the silence surrounding Charles. When she reached Camilla's request for privacy, Diana refused to make any promise. She did not threaten to expose the letter. She simply wrote that she could not give up the right to speak honestly about her own life, just to protect those who had helped shape her suffering. Then came the warning. Diana suggested that Camilla might one day receive the position she had waited for. She might stand beside Charles openly, surrounded by titles and ceremony. But no royal honor could erase the pain that had helped clear the path. Forgiveness, Diana wrote, could not be ordered by the Queen. It could not be requested, because the palace needed peace. And it could not be completed through one carefully watched apology. Near the end, Diana turned to Charles. Both women, she said, had been asked to give up parts of themselves for him, but only one had been forced to suffer in public, while pretending that nothing was wrong. Then came the final sentence, the line Camilla could not easily understand or forget. Was Diana warning her about Charles, about the monarchy, or about the life waiting behind the crown? When the reply reached Camilla, it did not merely reject an easy reconciliation, it forced her to imagine the future she had fought, to enter and question whether victory inside the royal family might become another form of punishment. The final sentence contained no insult and no obvious threat. That was precisely why it terrified Camilla. Diana had written only a few quiet words about the crown, Charles, and the price of taking another woman's place, but Camilla allegedly understood the warning before anyone explained it. Diana's message was simple, but it carried a dark weight. She warned that entering her former position would not mean inheriting love, safety, or peace. It would mean stepping into the same royal system that had slowly silenced her, judged her, and reshaped her until she barely recognized the woman she had once been. Camilla may one day stand beside Charles openly, Diana suggested. She may receive the title, the ceremony, and the place she had waited years to claim. But being chosen by Charles was not the same as being protected by him. That difference cut deeper than any accusation. The line shook Camilla because it did more than condemn the past. It predicted the future. Diana was telling her that the same palace now helping to manage the scandal could one day turn its rules against her. The same advisors who protected Charles could question Camilla's value. The same institution that demanded Diana's silence could demand Camilla's obedience. And once she stepped fully inside, there might be no easy escape. Camilla read the words again, searching for a hidden meaning. Had Charles expressed private doubts? Had the Queen already made plans to keep her away from royal life? Were palace officials preparing to accept her in public while shutting her out behind closed doors? Her hands became unsteady. She placed the paper down and asked to be left alone before anyone could see how deeply the words had reached her. Until that moment, Camilla may have expected Diana to keep fighting for Charles. Anger would have been easier to understand. Jealousy could have been dismissed. But Diana had done something far more powerful. She had stepped away from the contest and exposed the possible emptiness of the prize. That created a cruel reversal. Camilla had entered the exchange believing Diana was emotional, unpredictable, and unable to control herself. Yet Diana's calm reply left Camilla frightened and unsure. The woman once described as unstable now appeared clear and composed, while Camilla was the one struggling to hold herself together. She allegedly tried to contact Charles soon after reading the letter. She needed him to say their future was secure. She needed a promise that he would defend her when the palace pressure became unbearable. But his response did not come quickly. And when it did, it offered no clear comfort. That silence made Diana's warning feel even more real. Camilla became trapped by one question. If Diana believed the palace would eventually punish whoever stood beside Charles, what had she learned that Camilla had not yet discovered? Camilla's fear might have remained private had Charles not discovered the correspondence, because the moment he realized two women and his mother had discussed his choices without him, the crisis moved from emotional betrayal to a battle over royal authority. Charles had spent years trying to control two separate worlds: the public marriage surrounding Diana and the private emotional life surrounding Camilla. The letters shattered that separation. Now his mother had forced one woman to confess, the other had answered, and Charles had lost control of them both. He did not learn about the exchange from the Queen. He heard about it through Camilla, whose shaken voice revealed more than she meant to say. A palace aide later spoke as though Charles had already been informed, and that careless mistake confirmed the truth. His mother had acted without him. Camilla had written the apology. Diana had answered. Somewhere inside the palace, their words now existed on paper. His first reaction was not sympathy. It was humiliation. The Queen had entered the most private part of his life and turned it into written evidence. Charles knew that spoken conversations could fade, but letters could survive. They could be copied, hidden, leaked, or placed before people who had not yet learned the full story. When he confronted the Queen, her answer was cold and direct. His choices had stopped being private the moment they began threatening the future of the crown. Diana's pain had become public. Camilla's position had become political. And Charles, as the future king, no longer had the right to treat the crisis as a personal matter. He accused the palace of using Camilla as a scapegoat. The marriage had been under pressure for years. Diana and Charles had hurt each other. Their personalities clashed, their needs were different, and royal duty had only made those problems worse. Yet Camilla, he argued, was being forced to carry all the blame. The Queen refused to release him from responsibility. Camilla had been ordered to apologize, but Charles had made the greater promise. He had stood before the country, the church, and the institution he would one day lead. The burden was his, and no anger could change that. Then another fear took hold. What if Diana kept a copy? What if the letters were shown to William and Harry one day? Those pages could shape how his sons understood the collapse of their parents' marriage and how they judged him. Charles tried to calm Camilla by calling Diana's final warning an act of emotional pressure. But Camilla noticed what he would not say. He did not promise that he could protect her from the palace. For the first time, she challenged him directly. Would he defend her in public? Would he risk his royal place for her? Or would she always face the shame while he remained protected by rank and duty? Charles had no easy answer. He was trapped between anger at Diana, resentment toward the Queen, and the growing fear that Camilla no longer trusted the future he had promised. As Charles fought to regain control, palace officials focused on something even more urgent: locating both letters, sealing them away, and ensuring that no future historian could reconstruct what the Queen had forced into writing. Royal scandals can survive rumor because rumor has no signature. These letters were different. They carried handwriting, emotion, and responsibility. According to the story whispered through palace corridors, officials moved quickly to hide them, not because the exchange was meaningless, but because it revealed too much about how the monarchy controlled its own. A spoken denial could be repeated until people accepted it. A private conversation could be forgotten, changed, or blamed on misunderstanding. But a letter remained. It could survive the people who wrote it. It could pass through new hands, appear years later, and expose the feelings hidden behind polished public statements. For a monarchy built on silence, that made the pages dangerous. Palace officials allegedly began collecting every trace of the exchange. They searched for Camilla's first draft, Diana's original reply, delivery notes, and any copies made by secretaries. Even routine records became a threat. A name, a date, or a signature could help someone rebuild the full story. That urgency created a fierce disagreement behind closed doors. Some advisors wanted both letters destroyed at once. They believed no record should remain of the Queen forcing Camilla to apologize or of Diana answering in a way that challenged the palace itself. Others warned that destruction could be even more damaging. If proof later appeared that royal documents had been deliberately erased, the cover-up might become larger than the scandal. The final decision allegedly came from the Queen. The letters would not be burned. They would be preserved, but placed beyond normal reach. History, in her view, could be controlled, but it should not be falsified so completely that nothing remained. The papers were reportedly sealed inside a restricted archival packet. The label gave no clue to the emotional force inside. It sounded ordinary, almost dull, as though it contained routine family correspondence rather than a confession, a warning, and a challenge to royal power. Access was limited to only a few trusted people. Before the packet was closed, One senior aide allegedly read Diana's reply. What disturbed him was not only what she said about Camilla. Diana's words seemed to accuse the whole system. She was writing about women being asked to suffer for duty, marriages being protected for appearance, and silence being used as a tool of control. Yet the palace could not be certain the truth had been contained. Diana may have kept a copy. She may have rewritten the reply in a private journal or shared its meaning with someone she trusted. That possibility meant the archive was never fully secure. For Camilla, the hidden packet became a quiet source of fear. A public letter could be answered. A secret one could return at any time, in any form, under anyone's control. The Queen had tried to close the crisis. Instead, she had created a permanent record of it. The letters disappeared from view, but Diana's warning did not disappear from Camilla's mind, and as the years moved forward, each step toward Charles brought her closer to the future Diana had predicted. Please paste the missing subheading, word count, hook, key points, and transition line inside the brackets. I'll then write the section in paragraph form, keep the hook and transition line exactly as provided, continue smoothly from the previous section, and add a natural closing such as, "Thanks for watching." Subscribe to the channel for more hidden royal stories, palace secrets, and mysteries from inside the British monarchy.